in the town hall in terms of protecting the town against viruses, be they, the traditional virus that we may find in our computers, or spyware or malware, which all of us are getting more familiar with. And if we provide a unified system or a central system for that, one, it reduces cost. Some of the things are on state contract, some of the things are not. But they will provide overall protection, not only for the supervisor's computer, but for other departments. And unfortunately, there's a lot of folks out there right now that are that are writing software that is designed to harm your computer. Fortunately, out of the 1,200,000 that are out there, there's maybe 100,000 that are active. And what they do is, a lot of times they compromise the computer in a very negative way, and the user unsuspectingly clicks on it because there are some viruses and spyware out there right now that looks exactly like the Microsoft Windows environment. So it pops up and the person says, oh, this bad thing is going to happen to your computer. So the person unwittingly, thinking they're doing the right thing, clicks on it to say, oh, of course I don't want that to happen. And they actually download a piece of malware on the computer, which opens up a port. And I think you and I both know from the work that we did, what happened is somebody's computer here was used in a very negative way to broadcast bad things. And actually not so much bad things, but just annoying things. Different ads that all of us get. And we were able to stop that, which was good. And I think if you had a more aggressive program to monitor that, you might be able to prevent a lot of that. And I won't bore you with the details tonight, but I think many other villages and towns have been successful by centralizing the computer storage in one area called a server, and then we can limit access by department to different information on that server, so there's no worry that, for example, the judicial side of the town is somehow going to get compromised by the planning side or the administrative side or anything like that. So, and you can create these groups and provide that sort of central repository, and then protect all that data from antivirus and spyware and malware, and then broadcast, if you will, all the updates automatically of all the computers. And you have a lot now. I mean, the town has really made a major investment in technology in order to serve the residents better. But with that major investment comes a requirement, of course, for us to provide greater protection. So that would be sort of one suggestion, and I'm happy to come back and talk to you during your workshop session or another meeting about that. And I think the big thing going forward is that perhaps you create a computer program or a set of guidelines that will kind of direct the town in the future. I can certainly help you with that. And then enable you to not only protect the computers now, but protect them for the future. And at the same time, one of the big things, as the state is constantly asking us to do now, is that some of the data, because people are starting to correspond through email, that some of that email is now part of the information that people can FOIL and ask about. And if we don't have that data, as your attorney will tell you later on, it can create issues. So, and I'm not saying that, I mean, certainly there's personal details that sometimes people do. By and large, if we establish the community's professional address or the government address, and we use that for government business, that's something that really ought to be centralized and should be backed up. I'm getting a little bit far from what we wanted to talk about tonight, which really was the computer in your office, which is really quite old. Some of the
slightly.
Well, it was Windows 98, and I think there were 4 generations beyond that now. But the point being is that it's probably time for an upgrade. I think that what I provided you was information on the state contract price and also the small business price. It's very reasonable. It kind of leveled the playing field, if you will, on all the different options that are out there for you. We certainly didn't recommend some of the higher end stuff. We kept it kind of at the median to low side in order to make it affordable for the town at this point. But what I really recommend sort of going forward, and if any of you have widescreen monitors at home, you know that instead of them being square like they used to be, they tended to moved them down a little bit in height and then made them a little bit longer horizontally. And what that enables you to do is to see more information like spreadsheets and things like that. And as your budget processes, one gentleman, Mr. Norton, just recommended, or just talked about going forward, that sort of horizontal capability and really enables you to see much more, so you're not constantly scrolling left and right. So you might want to really consider that instead of, if you're going to invest in any hardware going forward, you really don't want to do sort of the older style, which is the more square screens. You really want to go with what they call the wide screen or the rectangle screens. I think that's going to make a big difference.
Mr. Jeffries, the Optiplex 380 mini tower, it looks to me like it comes with a monitor.
Yes,
that's a wide monitor.
I did, because you're using the CRT, and the CRTs aren't bad. I mean, a lot of people still use them for gaming. To be sideways here on the thing, because their response rate is much faster. But in a business environment, the flat screens or the LCDs are better because the power consumption is considerably less. And I think on the recommendation I made for you was the highly efficient power supply unit, the 88% more efficient unit.
You did.
Since these things do, and this is what you were alluding to before, Mr. Supervisor, was that they tend to last longer, and we have PCs that usually have a useful life of 3 years. We've been seeing them pushed out in most municipalities because of finances from 5 to 7 years. So when you're dealing with a unit that can be up to 80% more efficient from an electrical standpoint, because they shut down quicker and they manage the power better, that's your real cost. It's not the $1,000 for the computer, it's what you're going to spend over the life of the computer to provide the electrical services and all that kind of good stuff going forward. So you sort of want to look longer term, not only at the immediate cost, but also at what the cost is.
Right.
And hopefully I'm not boring you all to death. But that's sort of what I do.
As you know, Mr. Jeffries' recommendations were on the sheet. Optiplex 380 mini tower, $1,171. That includes the monitor, and the Lexmark X543DN color multifunction all-in-one printer.
If I can just talk about that for a second, and this might be beneficial not only to the board but also to the residents. The units today that are coming out, these multifunction units, they have separate black toner now from the color toner. So the unit itself, like probably 80% of what you folks print out is black and white. But if you get into the budget and you want to show last year's and things that are, let's say you ran over budget, so you want to be able to show that in red, okay? Green is under budget and black is on budget. That's when it becomes really valuable. And it's also, because you're dealing with personnel issues and confidential information, it's better to have a printer nearby you that isn't being broadcast necessarily to the central printer that everybody's using. But it really reduces the cost per page to print out when you're using lasers that are just producing black and white copy. And that's a really big issue. A lot of times when you look at these costs and you see a inkjet printer for $100, all right, well, the consumables, as we all know from going to Staples and Office Depot, they can cost as much as the printer cost when you first bought it. So the lasers, on the other hand, cost a little bit more to buy initially, but their price per copy cost and the consumables cost is significantly lower. So again, that's why I made that recommendation.
You told me at one point that an inkjet would cost twice as much per page as a laser.
Absolutely, inkjet is a beautiful print, and if you're doing lots of pictures and things for the comprehensive plan or something like that, that would be great. But by and large, if you're doing spreadsheets or you're printing out letters or information for the board members, and you need to highlight different things in color, it's far less expensive to use laser color than it is to use inkjet.
All right, thank you.
Just one thing on the all-in-one printer scan. I know you do this wireless from the computer. Now, can that also be used from Bonnie's computer too?
If Bonnie needed to, we can set it up on the network.
So that
share that.
Yes. Yeah, so that we can use one. I mean, so that we're not told in a few months that Bonnie needs a printer.
No, I mean you can share it. The copy count.
What's the distance that you can?
Well, if you're doing the wireless, it's going to be the typical. I mean, they give you these crazy things like it'll go 150 to 200 feet. No, but realistically, it goes 30 feet, 50 feet, 75 feet. It's all relative to the density of the walls and things like that. I mean, certainly from where Bonnie sits and where the supervisor sits.